Join me in making the Chilly Forecast Pendant. This is a star shape that I made with some beads, and then I added it to a felt backing, and I put a loop at the top to hang, so you can use this as a pendant or an ornament. You can hang this on your tree or hang it from a window. Lots of different things you can do with this, and I'll show you how I beaded it and then some different options for how to hang it. Check out the material list below so you know exactly what you need, and then we will get started. We're going to start by making our little feathery components here. And so you can see here I have chilies on the side, and I have a round bead and some seed beads. So that's what I have out here. I have my chilies and my round trios on this darker fabric because they're going to be hard to see against the white. I also have a needle and thread here, and I'm using a size 10 needle, and you should be able to use a size 6 or 8 thread. 5 would work as well, but 6 or 8 would be a little bit thicker and a little nicer for this project. With the chili beads, if you haven't used them, they have a sort of 2 different sides to them. The one side here, what I like to think of as the outside, is curved, kind of like a little dome here. And then on the inside, or the underside here, kind of like the belly, you've got an indent here where it's concave and it goes inward. And the holes are going to be at the very top here, and then you've got a second hole that's right below it. So when I refer to the top hole here, I'm going to talk about this one that's at the very, very top. And the second hole here is the one right below it. So there we go. There's our chili bead. So I'm going to start here by picking up one of the chili beads and just going from that top hole, or going through that top hole from the outside to the inside. So I want my needle to be coming out on the side where it's indented or concave. Pick up an 11-0, and then we're going to pick up another chili bead, and we're going to also go through the top hole of this chili bead, and we're going to pick it up the opposite way, so that when our chili beads here fall down towards the end of our thread and come together, they're facing each other. Now, I have my thread here just kind of hanging out. I'm just holding on to it. I haven't tied it or added a stop bead. So you just want to hold the last few inches here as you work. We're going to take our needle, and we're going to go in the same chili bead here where we just picked it up. We're going to go down through the second hole, pick up an 11-0, and then go through the next chili bead here through the second hole. And you can see that you do see the thread on the outside of the chili bead. I would recommend using a white thread for this, or something that's going to complement your chili bead or blend in there. I'm just using green, so it's easier for you to see, since white on white is difficult to see and not great for following instructions. So here I have my thread, my tail thread, and I have my thread here where I'm working. I'm going to actually tie these together. Typically, I don't do a knot at the beginning of my project like this, but as you build your component piece here, it's going to be difficult to come back and do a knot or to tie off this, this tail thread. So we're going to do that now. And I'm going to take my needle and thread and go through the top hole of my chili bead, the 11-0, and my chili bead, and come out here on the side. I'm going to pick up another chili bead. I'm going to start building on either side of this pair of chili beads. I'm going to pick up another chili bead, and I'm going to pick it up through the second hole and let that fall down. And you notice I picked it up from the inside going outside so that it sits and it sort of cups the chili bead right below it. Go through the top hole of the chili, and then pick up 2 seed beads. And we're going to pick up another chili through the top hole. And again, we're going to pick this up so that it is on the other side here, facing the opposite direction. So we always want to pick up the chili beads so that, pull this down a little bit. We always want to pick up the chili beads so that the sort of top or domed side of them is facing outward in the design, and the cup side here that's concave is facing the center of the design. So let that fall down, and then go through the second hole of the chili, and go through the top hole of the chili right below it, through the 11-0, and straight through to the top hole of the next chili. And then we're going to go through the second hole of the chili right above it. And now give your thread a nice little tug to pull all those beads close together. So you can see this is starting to form the sort of feathered look here. So we're going to jump up here to the second hole again, or sorry, the first hole of our chili bead, through the 2 11-0s, and then through the first hole of the next chili bead. Now we're going to repeat this step again, and we're going to pick up another chili bead through the second hole. Oops. trying to keep this neat for you. Okay, pick up that chili bead through the second hole, and we're going to go through the top hole here. Pick up 3 of our 11-0s, and pick up another chili through the top hole. It is definitely a little bit awkward at this point because you don't have it all connected yet, but this is what you should have now. We're going to go through the second hole of the chili, and then we're going to go through the first hole of the chili below, through the 2 11-0s, and then through the top hole of the next chili. And then we're going to pass through the second hole of the chili above, which is that chili that we added here. Give it a nice tug to pull your thread tight and to get rid of any slack, and pull all those beads together. We're going to take our needle and go through the top hole of the chili and through the 3 seed beads and the top hole of the next chili. So now we're coming out on the top hole of one of our chilies here that's sitting at the very top edge of our design. We're going to add one more layer of chilies, and we're going to do it a little bit differently this time. So I like to turn this to the right. If you've noticed, I like to work on the right side here. So I keep flipping this just so that my work where my thread is coming out tends to be on the right. So that's why I keep flipping it. That's the easiest way for me to work. So now my next layer of chilies, I'm going to actually match up my holes so that the chili that I'm adding is sitting directly on top of the chili below. So coming out here through the top hole of my chili, I'm going to go through the top hole of a new chili. And now here's where you're going to see this thread, so it is nice to use a thread that's the same color as your chili. Go down through the second hole, and then go down through the second hole of the chili right below. And then go down through the first hole of the chili below that. Through your 2 seed beads and the top hole of the next chili. And now through the top hole excuse me, through the second hole here of the chili above. And you'll see that your thread is already going that way. You've already got a thread path going from hole to hole. So you're just going to follow the existing thread path. And so now I'm going to add my chili on this side. Coming out here through the second hole, so I'm going to go through the second hole of my new chili. And then down through the top hole. And through the top hole of the chili below. And through my three seed beads. And through the top hole of the next two chilies going out here, or going upwards. So here I've got now my 8 chili beads, and I've got this sort of like winged feather look, which is really nice. And now I'm going to add a bead here in the center. I'm going to pick up one of my 11-ohs. I'm going to pick up one of my round trios through one of the outside holes. It doesn't really matter which one. You just want to make sure it's one of the outside holes, not the center hole. And pick up another seed bead. And then go down through the top hole here of the chili bead on the other side. And give that a little pull. And we're going to go down through the top hole of the chili below. Through my 3 seed beads. And then up through the 2 chili beads at the top here, through that top hole. And I like to always give my thread a little tug here, because this can be a little tricky to keep your threads tight. Go through your first seed bead here, through your first 11-oh, and pick up 4 11-ohs. And now we're going to come down here to this row of 3 seed beads, and we're going to pass through the center bead. And then our 4 seed beads here will sit right along the edge of the chilies. Pass up through the 4th seed bead that you picked up. It's the first seed bead here, closest to the seed bead where you're coming out. Pick up another 3 11-ohs. And then you're going to go through the 11-oh here at the top. So now we have our little section complete. I need to tie off my thread here. So I'm just going to take my needle and thread, and I'm going to do a little knot, and then hide my thread. I'll bury my thread in here, maybe do a couple other knots, but I am done adding beads. So this is now our little winged section. You're going to make several of these. We're going to make 5 of them, and then we're going to put them together to make our design. I've now finished my 5 pieces, my 5 components, and if you can notice here, I actually switched from the bead on it board that I was using with a white background to one with a light gray background. And this light gray background makes it a little bit easier for the white beads to show up. So if you're looking for a bead on it board and you're not sure what to get, the light gray is a nice option, because if you work with a lot of white beads, it makes it a little bit easier to see those. So here I've got my 5 components. I'm going to start attaching them together. I just took a new piece of thread and a needle, and I attached to one of the components. And all I did to attach is just take my needle and thread and tie that thread onto some of the thread that was already running through the piece here. So nothing real special about that, just a little couple overhand knots to tie a piece of thread onto the piece that was already here. So I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go through my round trio. So I'm actually next to a seed bead, so I'm going to go through the seed bead and the round trio. And I want to Then go through the center hole of the round trio. So to start this step, you just want to be in position where you're coming out of one of the center holes of the round trio. I'm going to pick up another round trio through the center hole and let that drop down, and then pick up another component, again through that center hole. Now when you make your components, you may notice that there seems to be a top and a bottom, or a front and a back, and you can tell that because these seed beads here that we added in a V shape will tend to sit on one side, and then you'll see there's sort of like an underneath where they're sort of recessed, they kind of pop up to the front. So you want to pick these components up so that that V of seed beads is facing up on all of your components. And continue here, going around, picking up a round trio, and then another component. And then a round trio and another component, going through just the center hole of the round trios until we've got all 5 of our pieces on here, all 5 of our components. And then one more round trio here to connect our piece into one circle. So you've got kind of you've got a bit of a heavy piece here with just one little piece of thread running through your round trios. So I'm going to go around and go through all of those round trios one more time, or 2 more times, depending on what you prefer. One more time should be enough for you to get everything cinched and to close up any gaps. And it just makes your piece a little bit stronger, gives you a little bit more leverage so you can pull things together and make the circle here a little bit tighter. So now that I'm back to the beginning, I'm going to take my thread here, just pull that out to the side so I can get a good look at this. And you should have something like this. So you've got all 5 of your components here facing outwards with the little V's popping towards the top here, and then 10 round trios in the middle. So go ahead and get to this point here. Make sure you've got no slack in your thread here, and give your thread here a little tug to cinch that up. And we're going to continue working on our Rivoli bezel next. So now we're ready to start on the netting portion of our project to hold our Rivoli here in the center. You can see our Rivoli fits really nicely in there, really snug, but we need something to hold it in place. And I did move my seed beads over here. If you guys were wondering, yes, these are same beads. I just moved them over. It's easier for me to work here on the right because I'm right-handed, so move those. My thread is coming out of one of the round trios here in the center, through that center hole. And I want to move up to the hole that's on the very inside here. So I'm just going to take my needle, and in the same bead where my thread is coming out, I'm just going to kind of make a U-turn here and go through the top or the very inside hole. So I'm just going from one hole to the other. And you can see mine is very floppy. So yours should be as well. That's fine. As we work on it, it'll stiffen up, and we'll add some more beads to it to give it some more structure. So coming out of the top hole, or the inside hole, however you want to think about it here, we are going to pick up 5 seed beads. And then we're going to go back through the hole in the round trio, through the same hole, in the same direction here. So we're just doing that same step again, going through the hole in the round trio. And as you do that, you'll pull your thread, and the seed beads will be sitting right along the inside edge of your round trio. We're going to go through the next round trio, through that top hole. And we're going to pick up 4 seed beads. And now we're going to go down through the last seed bead on the previous round trio. So through the 5th seed bead there that we picked up, and then back through the hole in the round trio, that same hole at the top. And then we're going to move on to the next round trio. And I got a little bit of a clogged hole here, so I'm just going to go from the other side there and clear that out. Through the next round trio here. Pick up 4. And same step here, I'm going to take my needle and thread and go down, or for me it's from the right to the left. I'm going through that last seed bead on the previous round trio and pull that tight through the round trio again, and then on to the next. So I'm going to repeat those steps until I come back to the beginning here. And it may feel a little, definitely going to be a little floppy, may feel a little awkward, but it'll get better here as we work with it, as we add some more structure. So go ahead and continue here until you get back to the beginning. I'm now on my last round trio. I'm going to pass through the hole in my round trio, and then I'm going to go up through the first seed bead here on the round trio to the left, pick up 3 seed beads, and then go down through the last seed bead here above the round trio here to my right. And so I'm just adding 3 seed beads this time, and I'm going to give that little pull, go back through my round trio, and I have now that netting complete for the front or back of my bezel. I'm going to pass up now through 3 seed beads, and that will bring me to the center seed bead sitting above my round trio here. So we want to be coming out through that 3rd seed bead in little group of 5 here that's sitting above my round trio. It's the center bead. I'm going to pick up 1 of my seed beads, and then I'm going to move here to the left, or you may be going to the right if you have this flipped upside down. I'm going to go here to the next round trio and go through the center bead above the next round trio. Pick up 1 more, another of my 11 seed beads, and oops, don't lose your needle. Pick up 1 more seed bead, and then through the center bead on the next round trio. And I'm going to do this the whole way around, picking up 1 of my 11s and going through the next center bead. And so this will pull those seed beads to the center and give this a little bit more structure and give this a little bit more here to hold that Rivoli in. So go around and add 1 of those seed beads in between all of your center beads until you're back at the beginning. So now that we have the back of the bezel complete, we're going to go ahead and work on the front. We want to have the back section here, the back of the Rivoli, of this Rivoli bezel here at the center. We want that pushed towards the back. So I have my little V's here that pop up towards the front on my components. Those are facing up towards me, and I want the section in the center here that I just completed, that Rivoli bezel, pushed to the back. So I want to make sure that this next row or piece that I'm working on here, this next section, I'm working on the front, and I'm building that on top of the piece below here, building that on top of the ring that I just created for the back of my Rivoli. And my Rivoli will sit in there. And what I'm working on now is going to sit on top of that Rivoli. So I just want to make sure that everyone is oriented the right way so that we don't accidentally build the front on the back, because that can be easy to do if we're not paying attention. So you want to take your needle and thread and go through your 11 seed beads. Just pass through your seed beads here until you get back to your round trios. And you can also tie off your thread and add a new piece at this point if that's easier. We're going to take our needle and thread and pass through that inside hole of the RounTrio. And then we're going to go through the middle hole of the RounTrio. So now for this step, we're going to be going from RounTrio to RounTrio through the center hole instead of the inside hole like we did last time. So coming out of that RounTrio, I'm going to pick up 5 seed beads, and then I'm going to go back through the RounTrio. So I'm following the same steps here. I'm just going through the center hole in the RounTrio instead of the very inside hole here on the edge. Pass through the next RounTrio, and we're going to pick up 4 beads, and then through the last bead on the previous RounTrio, through the new RounTrio, and the next RounTrio. So I'm following the same steps. I'm just going through that center hole instead of the hole on that inside. And this will push my netting a little back here, so it's not quite as forward over the Rivoli. So you can see my Rivoli will fit right in there, and the netting that I'm working on is right on the edge here. So continue around here, adding that netting onto your seed beads around the edge, or sorry, your RounTrios around the edge, going through that center hole, and we'll get back to the beginning here and continue with the bezel. I followed the same exact steps that I followed on the bezel here below, but I just went through that center hole of my RounTrio. So I added all of those seed beads around my RounTrio, and now I'm ready to work on the next step here where I connect my sections here. So I'm connecting that center seed bead of each section, connecting that center seed bead above each RounTrio. So in the last side, in the first side, the back side of my bezel, I connected them with 1 seed bead. This time I'm going to connect them with 2 since it's a little bit farther out here and it's a little bit wider. First, I'm going to take my Rivoli and put my Rivoli there in the center. And now coming out of that center seed bead above my RounTrio here, I'm going to pick up 2 of my 11-ohs and then go through the next center seed bead above the next RounTrio. And continue like this, going around, passing through that center seed bead above each RounTrio. So again, following those same steps. So this side of the bezel, the front and the back are very similar. The only difference here is going through that center hole of the RounTrio and then picking up 2 seed beads to connect the center seed beads. So really very similar. And you can see here as I do that, as I connect them, it'll pull the bezel in over the top of the Rivoli. Go ahead and go all the way around here until you get back to the beginning and you've pulled all your seed beads over the Rivoli. I'm now done with the top of my bezel, and you can see here that the top part of my bezel here is a little bit wider, and you can see more of my crystal. And if I flip it to the back, you can see less of my crystal. There's less of that crystal showing there. So that's a sure way to know that you have everything facing the right direction. You want to see more of your crystal, and you want to see these seed beads here between your chilies facing up. And if I flip to the back here, you can see there's less of those seed beads because they're all popping out towards the front. We're going to now start on building up the arms here, our components, and adding a little bit more structure. You're going to follow your thread path through your seed beads and pass through your RounTrio. Pass through that center hole of your RounTrio. very, very easy to get your thread caught, so be careful not to do that. And now we're going to pass through the next round trio. For me, I have to pass through one more round trio. You may not need to. You want to be coming out of the round trio that's sitting between your components. So you just want to make sure that you're coming out of one of these round trios that you added when you connected the components. And you can tell that it's that one because it's sitting between your components, but also the holes here on the very outside will be open. You won't have anything connected to them. And that is what we're going to use now. We're going to use those open holes. Get my thread here out of the way. I added some thread, so I have some random thread ends in here. Always fun to work with. Always fun to work around those. I'm going to do a little U-turn here in my bead and go through that open hole. So I'm now on the hole, or coming through the hole that's farthest out to the edge of my project. And I'm going to pick up one of my seed beads, and I'm going to pick up a crystal now. So I've got my crystals out. And then I'm going to pass down through the 3 seed beads that created a V here at the base of the round trio on my component. So I'm passing through those 3 beads, and I'm going to pass down through the bead below it, through that 1 seed bead that we shared here in the center. And I'm going to pick up another crystal and a seed bead and let that fall down. And then I'm going to go through my crystal, through the seed bead that we shared, and then through the 3 seed beads on the other side of the V. So I'm going down one side of the V and up the other and adding a crystal there in the center. I'm going to pick up another crystal and another seed bead. And then on my next round trio here, sitting between my components, I'm going to pass through that open hole. That is all the way on the farthest edge or outside edge here of my project. So you can see here now I've added 3 crystals, one on either side of the round trio here and one in the center. So I'm going to repeat this step again, and I'm going to repeat it until I get back to the beginning and I've added those crystals to each component. So again here, just adding 1 seed bead, 1 crystal, down through the 3 seed beads of the V and the one that I'm sharing here. So down through a total of 4 seed beads. Pick up a crystal and then a seed bead, and back up through the crystal and those 4 seed beads on the V here on the component. Picking up a crystal and another seed bead and going through the open hole in my next round trio. So there I've got 2 sections, 2 of my components done. I'm going to go ahead and continue with the other 3 and get those crystals added, and then we will continue from there. After adding all of the crystals, we're going to do a final step here to make this a little bit stiffer so that these edges don't flop around as much. You want to be coming out of the round trio here on that very outside hole, the same one that we used in the last step. And we want to pick up 1 11-0 seed bead. And then we're going to, on the top of the chili bead here right next to it, we're going to actually pass through the thread, or underneath the thread, that is exposed there between the 2 holes, running from hole to hole of the chili. So we're actually going through or underneath that thread. And then back up through the 11-0. And then we're going to pass through the 11-0 and the crystal and the 2 11-0s directly after the crystal. Oops. Like I said, very, very easy to get your thread caught at this point, so I'm going to watch out for that. we're going to pick up another 11-0 and skip over here to the other side of the V and go up through 2 11-0s, the crystal, and the 11-0. And so you can see here we're adding 1 11-0, and that 11-0 will fit right in that little space there between the two V's. So it'll just add a little extra silver in there and kind of round that out and fill in that little gap where you can kind of see through it. So now we're going to pick up 1 11-0 and we're going to go through that thread between the two holes in the chili, back up through the 11-0 and through the hole in our round trio. So now I've added 1 11-0 to either side of that component, and as I pull that tight, it should stiffen that up a little bit. They're still going to be a little bit floppy because I don't really have anything underneath them that's holding them up. You can of course always do that if you want to put a backing on it, if you want to cut a backing with some sort of felt or cardboard or a little wood, something like that, and paint it, you can always do that. Or if you want to put this on a piece of embroidery backing, that would also help. But doing this little stitch here with the seed beads tends to help hold it up a little bit. Now this is great for something where you're going to have it flat too, where it's going to be sitting against a window, hanging in your window, maybe a beautiful decoration on a Christmas gift, a very nice decoration on a Christmas gift, I will say. So something like that would be really nice. Or again, like I said, you could always put a backing on it. So again here, just to show you one more time, I'm going to pick up the 11-0 and I'm going to go underneath the thread that is running from hole to hole in the chili, and then up through that seed bead. And you want to give it a nice tight pull because that will help to hold it and keep it a little stiffer. Go through the seed bead, crystal, and 2 seed beads. Pick up 1 11-0 and then go up on the other side here through the 2 seed beads, crystal, and then 1 more seed bead here. And as we come out that seed bead next to the round trio, we're going to pick up another seed bead here. And this seed bead, and after this seed bead, we're going to go through or underneath here, the thread running from hole to hole in our chili. And then up through the seed bead. As you go up through the seed bead, you're also going to go through the round trio. So this gets a little bit tight at this point, but it is your last step. so it will be, so you'll just need to get through there one more time. You can use a thinner needle if you want, but I find that the thicker needle here, the size 10 that I'm using, works really well. So you can see they're definitely a little bit stiffer here, but still, like I said, there's nothing really on the back here holding it up. So lots of different options for how to fix that if yours is still a little too floppy for your taste. I'm going to go ahead and finish this, and then I'll show you how you can hang this, some different options for how to add some sort of attachment for a hanger. If you want to leave this piece just like this, and you want to add just a simple little wire hanger to it, I'll show you how I like to do that for a piece like this. I have a little piece of wire here, just a few inches long, actually just about 6 inches long, and it is a size 24 or a gauge 24. Pretty malleable, so easy to bend here, which is what I want for a piece like this. I'm going to make a little loop, and it's nice to have something like a tube of seed beads around because you can then take your wire, and at the center of your wire, you're just going to put it around your tube here, or if you have a Sharpie marker or your thread zap, and you're just going to cross here in the center and take that off. So you can see I just have a little loop and it crosses. And then I just want to twist there at the base of my loop just to hold that loop. And then with my two ends of the wire, I'm going to move to the back here of my piece, and I'm going to take one side of the wire and go from the back to the front through the piece, and from the back to the front through the other side of the piece. So you just want to go through at the same point on either side and kind of towards the top here so that it hangs the right way. I'm going to take this wire here and just flip it up, and you can kind of pull this wire so it's straight and flip your little loop up here. And then at the front, take a look at that, make sure that's what you want, if you want the loop showing or if you want it higher or lower. And then we're going to take the ends here and just move them to the back of the piece. And you want to be careful here because you are working with a little beaded piece here, so it's not super strong. You don't want to manhandle it too much with the wire here, but you just take that wire, basically just take it from the back to the front and then back around to loop around the arms or some piece of your some section of your piece here, and then you can cut these off. And that gives you just a simple little loop at the back so that it's somewhat hidden. And then if you want to hang a regular little hanger here for a Christmas tree ornament, or you want to tie a ribbon onto it, you can do that. So this is a really easy way to convert almost any pendant or charm or earring even, anything that you have that's a piece like this. You can just make a little loop, take the legs of it through the top or through the front, and then back around to grip it, and then you're done. So that's one option to create a simple little hanger like this on the back. And I'll show you something else that I like to do with it if you opt not to do the wire. So the other option here is to put it on a backing to make it stiffer and also to give it a little bit more pizzazz. So just in case you thought you were done beading, you're not necessarily if you want to do this option. You're going to take your piece here and you can either sew it or glue it to a backing. I like to use this stiff felt backing here, and I like this gray color because it makes my piece stand out more. So I'm going to go ahead and glue it. So for those of you who are done with stitching, this is a great option. And you can take a little bit of your glue here. I have this E6000, and I'm going to take my glue and just put some ink in here in the center. This is actually probably a little bit of an older tube, so hopefully you have a nice young tube that comes out a little better. And you want to position this. You want to give yourself a little space so that you're not going right to the edge, because I want to leave a little bit of a border. And I'm going to go underneath each one of my sections here, put a little glue, and press that down. And you don't need to go crazy with the glue. You just want enough to hold it. So I'm going to go around here and glue all my sections down. I like to kind of go where the seed beads are here. I feel like that gets a nice good grip. And press that down. And I'm going to let this dry. And then once that is dry, I'm going to trim around here to give myself a little border. So I'm going to trim around, and you can be done at that point, and then you can put a some sort of hanger on it. But I'm going to do a little bit more because this video isn't long enough. I'm going to do a little bit more here and just put a little border on the felt and show you how to do that. So I'm going to let this dry. and I will be back. Okay, back with my thread and needle here. So for those of you who thought that you were done with beads, not quite yet. Now you can, like I did here, just cut this off once you've got it glued on there, trim it around. I like to leave a little bit of space so that I see that gray through there. And I like the way that it kind of gives it a nice little look like it's a cookie, that I put some icing on top. So I like seeing some of that gray around there, and that's why I pick gray instead of white. So just letting this dry here. It's not quite all the way dry, but I think I'm out of the woods on this. I think I can work with it. Now at this point here, you can glue a ribbon on the back. You can do lots of different things with it to hang it. But I'm going to show you here how to also put a little delicate edging on it. And then from there, off the edge, you can then add a wire guard, or you can make a loop, all kinds of different things. So here I'm going to start really anywhere. And I'm going to start on the back, take my needle and thread, and I'm going to go through the edge of the felt. And I'm going to stay very close to the edge. And I'm going to start here by tying a little bit of a knot. I don't think you can tie a little bit of a knot. I think you have to tie a whole knot. I'm going to tie a little knot here, and I'm going to do that twice. And this is going to be a brick stitch. Lots of you guys probably already guessed this is going to be a brick stitch. So I'm going to pick up 2 of my seed beads. And you can do this with any size seed bead. I'm just using the 11/0s that I used in the project so that it matches. I've got 2 seed beads on here, and from the back to the front, I'm going to go through my felt, and I'm just going to the right here about the width of a seed bead. And then I'm going up through the second seed bead. And as I pull up through that seed bead, you'll see that the holes in my seed beads will be aligned so they're facing outwards. So if I tilt my fabric here, I'll be looking down through the holes. I'm going to pick up 1 more seed bead here. And again, from the back to the front, go through that felt and up through the seed bead. And this here is a very simple brick stitch, nothing fancy here. Just picking up a bead 1 at a time and attaching it to the edge of the felt. Going through the felt from the back to the front and up through the seed bead. And again, adding 1 bead, just 1 at a time. So I'm going to continue here and do a little edging on this whole piece. And if you're familiar with beading, which I hope you are, if you've got it, if you've made it this far, you're probably not a novice or a beginner. And then after this, I can, like I said, I can do lots of different things where I can add a wire guard, or I can make a loop. You could even take a piece of ribbon, fold it in half to make a loop, and glue it here between your piece and the felt on the back if you don't want to do any more beading. So some different options for you there. I'm going to go ahead and finish this, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. I'm ready to add my last 11/0 to my border here. So I'm coming out the top of one of my 11/0s. I'm going to pick up 1 more 11/0, and I'm going to add it just like I've been adding them, and go out through the top of that bead. And now, because this was my last bead that I'm adding, I'm just going to connect it to the first bead that I added so that I complete that connection and I don't really have a stop and a start or first and last. I want it to be completely connected. So coming out the top of my seed bead, I'm just going to go down through the top of the seed bead next to it, which is the first seed bead that I picked up. So this is where I started my border. So I'm going to go through that 11/0 and come out through the front of my felt. So same steps here, just using the bead that's already there instead of adding one. And then out through the top. So what I've done here is just connected the very last bead that I'm picking up and the very first bead where I started my border. So now I don't really have any kind of beginning and end. You can't tell where I stopped and started. And that's exactly what I want. And you can see here I do have the little thread on the back here. So I'll take care of that once I'm done here. Now, if you want to add a little loop at the top, all you have to do is decide where you want to add that loop. And you can just kind of backtrack through some of your beads. You can see I'm already towards the top of one of the points of my star. And so that's close to where I want to be. So I'm just going over one bead and I'm just following my thread path. You can also tie off your thread and tie it back on if you're someplace kind of far away from where you want to add that loop. Since I'm already here, I just moved over one bead. And you want to determine where you want to, where the beginning and end of your loop is going to be. So I want to attach it. I want to start here. And then to center it, I have to go over about 3 beads, and then I can attach it over here to this 4th bead over to the left. So there's really no right or wrong on this. You just want to identify where you want that loop to be, where you want it to start and end, so you know where to start and where to have that thread come out. And then I'm going to pick up any number of beads here. It really doesn't matter the count. What matters is the length. And I want to have an idea of how I want to hang this so that I know how big of a loop to make. And again, I'm not counting. I'm eyeballing this. And I'm just going to stop when I get to a point where I think it's going to be the length that I need. I'll probably just use a little wire to hang this. Might hang it on my tree. So I don't need much of a loop at all here because I just want enough that I can put a little wire hook on here to attach to my tree. So I've got that little loop, and now I'm just going to go down through the seed bead on the other side here where I want it to end. You see it's slightly off center, and but that's okay. It'll still hang all right. And through my felt, and back up through my 11-0, and I'm going to go through all the beads in my loop again. I want to reinforce this loop. If my project is going to be hanging from it, I want to make sure that it's sturdy. And again, just going back through that 11-0 and through the felts and through the 11-0 again. And I'll go back through my seed beads again. My thread here where I stopped, I'm going to take note of that. Or my tail thread, I want to take a note of that so that I know where I want to tie off my extra thread here. So here I am now, just going through all those beads again, back down through the bead attached to my felt, through the felts, and I'm back to my tail, my thread tail at the beginning when I started my border. Got my tail thread here, and now I'm just going to tie this off. So I'm tying both ends together. And now you can use scissors or a thread burner to tie off your ends. I also like to kind of hide the ends a little bit and drag it through the felt just so that it kind of tucks those ends away. And just burning that down. You can cut or thread burn it, whatever you prefer. And there is my completed piece, finally done. It did take me a few days to record this video, as you might have noticed for my changing outfits. So here is my completed piece. I'm really happy with it. I didn't know exactly how it was going to turn out when I started. I didn't know exactly how I was going to finish it, but I'm very happy with it, and I hope you are as well.